Welcome back folks, I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run4Adventure. We are back today with another comparison video and a video that has been requested quite a lot by our awesome viewers. So it is the battle of the heavyweights, and I quite literally mean the heavyweights because I personally feel that these two trail shoes are way too heavy for my liking. Let's get ready to review! Fighting out of the yellow and green cornerway, straight off the mean streets of Oregon, USA. Weighing in at 330 grams and running off a 10mm offset, the master of disaster, the Pegasus Trail 2. The challenger fighting in the yellow and grey corner, straight out of Oregon Trail Running Gym, USA, weighing in at 330 grams and running off an 8mm offset. It floats like a butterfly and it stings like a bee, the Wildhorse 6. Yep, that's right folks, today we are comparing the Pegasus Trail 2 against the Nike Wildhorse 6. You can see there is a lot of similarities between these two trail shoes from Nike, and personally for me, I think there's too many similarities between these two shoes. I don't really understand why Nike would develop two trail shoes that actually perform very similar to each other. Yep, they both look very different and they both look super cool, but unfortunately they also come with a lot of similar issues. Let's start with the things that are slightly different when it comes to the Pegasus Trail 2 and the Wildhorse 6. The first thing we need to speak about is that both shoes now have a new full react Nike midsole, but I personally feel the midsole feels quite different in both shoes. So when it comes to the Wildhorse 6, I felt that Nike React midsole was a little bit firmer, a little bit more responsive, returned a bit more energy. It's a bit shallower, so you have a bit more ground feel and connection. And then when it comes to the Pegasus, you've got a much deeper midsole, 10mm deeper, so a lot more depth in the midsole of the shoe. And also this compound is very, very soft and squishy. So because of that depth, you do feel like you're losing a bit of connection and a bit of ground feel, but you also feel like you're losing a bit of energy when you compare it to the Wildhorse 6. When it comes to the construction of the upper of the two shoes, there is a lot of similarities, but the shoes differ quite a lot when it comes to fit. So the first thing we're going to address is midfoot hold or lockdown. In the Wildhorse 6, this shoe's really dialed in. You feel really connected and locked down in that midfoot. A lot of it comes from that gusseted tongue in the shoe. The clever feature on that tongue is you've got this segregated cushioning from Nike, so even though the tongue's thin, when you lock them laces down, you get no irritation through that tongue whatsoever, even when you're running long. Then when it comes to the Pegasus Trail 2 and lockdown, I found it really hard to get this shoe to hold me tight around the midfoot. No matter what I did, no matter how many times I stopped, readjusted my laces, pulled them down tight, I still had lateral movement in the shoe, and over time and distance that lateral movement just built up. The only way I could stop it was by really pulling them laces down tight, and then because this gusseted tongue in the shoe is very thin and it doesn't carry that segregated padding like the Wildhorse, I started to get irritation across the top of my foot. So when it comes to midfoot hold in your trail shoes, which for me is a super important thing, the Nike Wildhorse 6 definitely comes out on top. Sticking with the uppers of the two shoes for now, we've got to talk about width and space in the toe box. For me, in the Wildhorse 6, this was quite a big issue. I'm really surprised how shallow the toe box is in this shoe. I've never had an issue with this in running shoes. I haven't got a deep foot or anything like that, never been a problem. But on all the longer runs I did in the Wildhorse 6, towards the end of that run, once my feet had expanded, I was getting a lot of irritation on the top of that upper to the point where all the long runs when I finished, I had quite a sore big toe and it stayed there for quite some time. It's odd, this shoe, the Wildhorse 6, is sort of pitched at running distance on the trail, ultra runs. Anyone who's done that kind of thing knows that space, depth and width in a toe box is super important once your feet have expanded. On the other hand, with the Pegasus Trail 2, the complete opposite. This toe box, super roomy, nice depth, really comfortable straight out the box. I think my second run in it was 22 miles. I had no irritation, no blisters, no hot spots, no rubbing, no sore toes all the way through that run, even after my feet had expanded a bit. So if it's depth, width and a nice roomy toe box feel you're after, then the Pegasus Trail 2 is the one to go for. That's some of the differences in these two trail shoes from Nike, but let's go through some of the similar features and some of the similar issues we found out along the way. The first thing we definitely need to address when it comes to similarities is the weight of these two beasts. Both shoes come in at 330 grams in a UK 9.5. That's heavy for a running shoe, especially a trail running shoe. Personally for me, I like my trail shoes to be under 300 grams and a little bit lighter than that if I can. There's a lot of fabrics and different fabrics, heavy fabrics, overlays going on in both shoes. I'm sure it wouldn't have taken Nike a lot to sort of lose 30 or 40 grams in either shoe. It would have made them a much better trail shoe, lighter and more responsive. The next thing we need to talk about is the level of traction and grip from the outsoles of these two shoes. I personally found that on loose dry trail they were both pretty good, not a problem, but when it came to any wet stuff, whether it's wet rock, wet pavement, wet tarmac, neither of these compounds were confidence boosting, let's put it that way. They really struggled, and I found in wet rocky environments even worse. Some rock they would stick, other rocks you'd just slip off, so not what you want out of a trail shoe. I did find it really odd that Nike have put this super sticky rubber that they have on the midfoot of the Wildhorse. I personally think it should have been on the forefoot or the heel, not in the middle of the shoe where you don't really contact out on the technical trails. So on dry, firm stuff, no issues, but both shoes really struggled in wet conditions. Don't worry, we'll get to the positives when it comes to similarities in a minute, but we've got to address the instability issues in these two trail shoes on technical trail. We highlighted this in both reviews for both shoes. If you haven't watched them reviews, I definitely recommend going and checking them out. But firstly, the Wildhorse really struggles. It's got quite a narrow heel counter, quite a heavy, very soft heel, but the heel's rounded, so it really does rock and roll about on technical trails when you're putting weight through the heel. With the Pegasus, slightly different. You've got a wider, flatter heel, which definitely helps with stability and that React midsole, but the compound is a lot softer than the Wildhorse. So again, you can get that sort of squishing, rolling feel when you're putting weight through the heel on technical trails. So it doesn't fill you with confidence in either shoe when it comes to stability in technical areas. Right, I think it's about time we got on to the positives in this review. I think it's been pretty negative up to now because I spend most of my time trail running out on the technical coast path of Cornwall, where both of these trail shoes from Nike really struggle when it comes down to performance. Both the Pegasus Trail 2 and the Wildhorse 6 ran really well on flat, dry, untechnical trail, or crossing over to a bit of tarmac in between the trail, or if you had to do a bit of road to get to the trail, both shoes handle that really easily. I found that the slightly firmer React midsole in the Wildhorse 6 ran excellent in that road environment. In fact, a little bit too well. I spent most of my time in this shoe running on tarmac, which probably isn't ideal when it comes to the performance of our trail shoes. You can probably tell we're in a bit of a dilemma when it comes to these two trail running shoes from Nike. I personally think there is a good all-round trail shoe here. Unfortunately, it's just neither of these. It's a combination of two shoes. So I think if you took that midfoot and that segregated tongue out of the Wildhorse, put it into this Pegasus 2 with that nice roomy, airy, comfortable toe box, you'd be left with a very good fitting, comfortable upper. If you took this firmer React midsole of the Wildhorse, put it into the Pegasus, but you left that wider heel profile and wider base of the midsole, you'd have a shoe that's pretty responsive and a lot more stable in technical environments. I think it could do with shedding 30 to 40 grams, and when it comes to the grip, unfortunately, I don't think either of these outsoles is good enough for a trail shoe, especially in wet British conditions. I think Nike should maybe spend a bit of time over in the UK in winter developing their rubbers and the layout of their grip patterns. It really would help the performance of their trail shoes. So I suppose you could say if the Wildhorse 6 and the Pegasus Trail 2 had a love child, you'd probably be left with a pretty good all-round trail running shoe, and maybe you could call it the Pegasus 3. So that's how we felt comparing these two trail shoes from Nike, but let's wrap this up with a quick conclusion. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. If you're the type of trail runner that is running super technical trail, mountain stuff, coast path stuff, you spend a lot of time running them trails in the wet, then either of these shoes is probably not the shoe for you. There is trail shoes out there in the marketplace that would perform way better in that type of environment. But if you are the type of trail runner that spends a lot of time mixing the terrains, you're doing a bit of trail, a bit of road, and it's untechnical stuff, you have to do a fair bit of road to get to the trail, then both of these shoes will handle that type of environment pretty well. But if I had to pick one of them, I would probably go for the Pegasus Trail 2, just because it was a super comfortable shoe straight out of the box. Like I said, second run in, 20 plus miles, no issues, no rubbing, no irritation, no blisters. Having that slightly deeper, roomier toe box I really liked. The React compound is slightly softer, so again, on them untechnical firm trails, road running, it's very, very comfortable. I would still like to see the shoe lose a bit of weight. I think 30 or 40 grams less, it would perform a lot better. But if I was doing a long run or a long ultra on flat trails where it crosses over to lots of road and trail sections, then I would definitely spend some time in this shoe. I found it a very comfortable experience in that environment. So that is how we felt comparing the Wildhorse 6 and the Pegasus Trail 2. But again, if I had to choose between the two shoes, I would definitely go for the Pegasus Trail 2. That is a wrap on our comparison video. Really hope you enjoyed it, guys. If you did, give us a big thumbs up. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'd love to have you along. We've left links in the description for the two Nike trail shoes featured in this video. If you want to find out any more information about the two shoes or about Nike as a running brand, please click that link and do so. And feedback, guys, get in the comments below. Have you run in either of these shoes? Have you run in both of these shoes? How did you find they compared? Did you struggle with them in technical environments? Get them comments in the comments below. Also, guys, don't forget to check out our super cool merchandise for you guys at home, available at Run4Adventure.uk. But thanks for watching. Your support is awesome. We will see you in the next video, and stay safe and keep on running.